Hey everybody, welcome to the Church Collective podcast. My name is Ryan and I and Chris Bellamy will be your hosts. In this episode, we talked to Alex Pappas from Hillsong Young and Free. When we talked, their album was going to be coming out, but it's been months and their album is finally out. It is fantastic. I'd encourage you to go check it out. And also, have you ever dealt with the internet just being weird for you? What we found is when we went back to put this podcast together, that there were a few times where the audio kind of got a little out of sync. So there's a couple little edit points in here, but we wanted to make sure that you heard this episode. It is just fantastic. So here we go with the Church Collective podcast.
So we recorded, we as Hillsong Young and Free recorded our fourth full-length album in January at our summer camp. And we actually, if most people would know that Australia was basically on fire. We would drive like up the coast from Sydney and have our summer camp. Obviously, with like literally the entire state was covered in smoke, and like you really could, like, air quality outside was so bad that we actually had to move the whole summer camp just back to one of our campuses. And luckily our main campus is, out in the suburbs enough to where we have a little bit of space that we could, get some games going. And what was so amazing about that week, honestly, is because going up to the camp, going up to these beach, like little like campsites and stuff, like is special and it's fun. And there's something about, I think, getting out of the city that leads like high school students to this like desperation. I don't know but man, there was something so, I think, mature about the young people as well leading up to this recording, that they were just up for it and they just went in, and we just had the most amazing night and encountered God and captured the new songs. And according to the current plan, we hope we're still putting it out sometime late June. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now, so we're still figuring out how we can get that out there and stuff, and obviously tell people about it well. So but that's the plan.
What did the songwriting process, like? I'm sure, you guys are known in a lot of circles for being just super innovative with what you're bringing to the table. Could you maybe give us a little peek into like, how did you guys write these songs for this one? What did it feel like? What was that process?
I think there was something for us that was like leading up to this album, knowing that because we recorded our first album at a summer camp, and that was obviously there was an energy to that, and I think a spirit behind that really it made our music something that seemed exciting. People could grasp a little bit about what that was from more than just from more than just what we delivered. Kind of to come back to that. So that was in January of 2013. We're trying to capture a similar spirit, I suppose, a similar just at summer camp, it's like you've never been sweatier in your life. Like you've never felt more disheveled in your entire adult life. But like there's nothing like more fun than like praising God at camp. And so I guess writing songs again that like felt like the party, but then like I said before, writing songs as well that would church is songs that would touch heaven and change the earth. And so really just, I suppose, like going for God. And so as far as like writing songs to be innovative, I suppose that's in the back of our minds. But the funny thing about Young and Free, I think, has always been like the songs that we write and the songs that have come out of our group are just really genuine to who we are. We wrote a song called Alive, and that was the first song that like felt like, oh, this is us. And that was kind of Aiden and I going like, man, he and I had written many of the other songs that we'd been working on as well. And it's like, man, like, I don't know, it was just just a conversation and a shift of headspace. It's just like, oh, maybe we should stop trying to be somebody else and just be who God has intended us to be. And from then, like I can't describe it as anything but like favor and the anointing of the Holy Spirit, because I don't know, we're not that exceptionally talented of people, but I think God's hand has just been on it and blessed us for this season to bring what we bring. And so I forget what the question was, but how we wrote the album.
Songwriting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that I think that answers the question.
That's
Sorry.
great. Yeah.
Can you talk about the single "Best Friends"? Is that first off, is that going to be on the new album, and is that the vibe of the new album, or was that just like, because that's obviously such a departure from the past stuff sonically.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I would say you're going to get a bit more of that on the record. And yes, what's awesome to me is because I love the music that we've made, but we've kind of always been just like, oh, man, like there's always something. Even like on our last record, playing a song like "Hindsight," which was just very much like a kind of 4 or 5 piece rock band sort of setup with a little bit in the track. Yeah, so the album, you're going to get a bit of that. You're going to get a little bit of the things that you've known us for as well, though. So, bit of both.
Yeah, I like how on your previous stuff you have acoustic versions of it, and it seems to translate really well, which makes me wonder: are they originally kind of written as like singer-songwriter type things, and then you morph them into more of a dance style, like, or is it just coincidence that they translate because they're good songs?
Yeah, well, I wish I wouldn't even be able to tell you how like big pop writers how they necessarily come up with their stuff, but most of the time we would have a couple writers in the room and then a producer as well. But like if myself and one of the other guys are the writers, like we're sitting on acoustic guitars and upright pianos, and we're coming up with the melodies and the lyrics like that way. And when we're finishing the lyrics, we're sitting at a piano just trying to figure out if these things work. So yeah, I would kind of say yes, but we're definitely writing them initially most of the time to be a big dance hit.
Yeah, in my home church, I found, since it's a family church, so there's all age ranges, So I found that if there was a Young and Free song I really wanted to do, we would introduce it first as an acoustic song for like altar call and stuff, and get the church
Yeah.
hooked on it. And then when we did the full version, they were into it, and I didn't really have to worry about them being jarred by the how they say disco and techno, like they come out with all, seniors come up with all kinds of names for that, but I really appreciated the fact that it translated like that, is like a good song stripped away first.
Luckily, Hillsong Young and Free, like we're part of a much bigger church, and we stand on like such, tall shoulders with Hillsong United and Hillsong Worship, and like we'll often show, a lot of the other guys the songs, and they will kind of even as well listen to them in a more raw form, and like you said, and kind of be sold on the song in and of itself, and then when you dress it up with the track, that can happen a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal your trick though. Start doing them in the 8 a.m. just first thing.
Sky View, like what does your guys' week look like as Young and Free with United and Hillsong and the church? Like what's your weeks look like as a team?
Well, yeah, I mean, like when we're home, a lot of us live in Sydney. We're quite the global church now. A lot of our crew live in LA and New York and around the world. But I mean, the hub of our church is in Sydney. And when we're home, man, we're just one church. We're just one family. Like before we were Young and Free, we were just like the people who served in the youth ministry, leading worship. We do youth on Friday nights. And yeah, like they're honestly like our big brothers and sisters, our peers. And yeah, we'll kind of like see everybody every day. When I'm home, I'm one of the creative pastors of one of our campuses, so I look after a couple campuses. And yeah, like when we're home, most of us really just do church, and then we write when we can. And it's like one of those things like you can like play when you get your chores done, but obviously church is not a chore. We all
Right,
know this.
we got this.
But if I make sure my weekend looks good, I'm like, oh, sick. Like, well, cool. That's good. I'm gonna write tomorrow. And we're very blessed to be in a position where we can do that. And again, like you said, to have these giants, spiritual giants around us to work with and write with and hang out with, it's awesome.
Sure. What in the midst of everything that's going on, like all of our churches are kind of reinventing ourselves or, changing the game. What are you guys doing in the midst of everything?
Oh man, well, so we've, I mean, obviously every day, at least in Australia, every day it's kind of like a new announcement from our prime
Yeah.
minister. Like, so
Yeah.
we went full like content mode last week, or the last two
Yeah.
weeks, I guess. Like just capturing like as many like worship services and, pardon me, and uh, speakers capturing their message, and yeah, like whereas like this week we're kind of, I guess we kind of went into last week, uh, I guess rush mode in a way,
Right.
like just trying to get as
Yeah.
much done as we could, to be ready for finding cool little setups. And like I played like acoustic, and so this week I'm kind of overseeing like a living room sort of worship session where like legally we can only have like 3 people in the room anyway. So trying to like come up with cool different setups, like one of our guys just leading from piano with a cello. Yeah, trying to create a space like in our online services that, yeah, I mean, like with a grain of salt, like I definitely think like people who are sitting in worship in their living room maybe aren't like standing up, like going for it like they would on a
Yeah.
Sunday. But like our job as worship leaders is always to evoke like that emotion and evoke and bring in like the presence of God, and so we can point people to Jesus when we draw people in. Like as worship leaders, we're meant to draw people in, and so this week we're just trying to brainstorm what we can create that will again like draw people in.
So I'm listening like to your talking, right? And I'm you say fire and church, totally American. How did you get to Hillsong? Like, how did you grow up? How did you become a musician?
Yeah, awesome. I was born in California. I was born in Long Beach. Yeah, I was like, I'd been going to like a community college for couple years. I was like overseeing the youth praise and worship team at my local church. It was super conservative, non-denominational, and beautiful people. But when I actually was given the youth praise and worship team to run, my youth pastor, who to this day is still one of my favorite people and mentors in my life, he handed me a Hillsong United, the United We Stand record, and was just like, maybe we should play some of these songs. Like pretty much exclusively every song on that record. And then I was saying, as I was going to community college, this great mentor, my pastor, been trying to get me to go to Bible college for years, and yeah, so that was 11 years ago, and so that would be why my accent goes meh. And I also married an Australian 3 months ago, so she's rubbing off on me. I'm so sorry.
You know, you've always played songs growing up in Hillsong, and you see it on YouTube and everything. But I didn't know what the actual vibe of inside the church would be like, and
Mm,
I was just blown away by like the people in the congregation just being so authentic, and the worship being authentic, and Brooke just being super raw. You know, the way she leads worship and everything.
mm,
Yeah, it really kind of changed slash solidified my view of Hillsong, and reinforced,
mm.
my love for the songs and everything. So yeah, I totally get it. It was awesome. Were you there for that conference?
So I actually last year, last March, so just about a year ago, I left for a Young and Free tour in Canada, and my visa went bad, and and yeah, so I actually spent pretty much all of the last year overseas.
Okay.
So yeah, which actually, I mean, it's funny that we should mention, but I actually had to sit out pretty much everything in the last like 12 months. So I mean, I was able to do tours, but sat out Hillsong Conference. I wasn't even in the country for the creative conference. And actually, to be honest, for anyone who's listening and is wondering, I actually had to sit out the recording for the Young and Free record, which was, I mean, to be honest, like besides like, like a breakup, which was really sad, not being on, like honestly, like if my flesh is talking here, like not being up there with my best friends and stuff. And but like it was such a funny like experience to be there. And yeah, it was just sort of like, I felt like after it was over, you know, and I was there on the night and just worshiping with everybody in the room. And like I said, but it was just sort of this like, you know, like we're just called to be worshipers. We're just called to and like be a part of the body. And so like there's, yeah, I mean, obviously we're blessed that we get to do this and we get to travel and all this stuff. But yeah, I don't know. God just spoke to me real clearly about just being like a worshiper first. And the one thing that I kind of thought this last year and kind of figured out about God is, you know, none of us ever graduate from like God teaching us stuff. You know, none of us ever graduate from God like teaching us lessons.
This is a dumb question, but I'm assuming all of your hair is not under that cap.
All the long hair's gone,
Yeah.
man.
Okay.
So
Now,
sorry.
did that have to do with you getting benched, or was it like what? How did that? You know, that was your signature for so long. So how did that go?
It was, man. It was. I had the thought. I was like, man, like people were like strangely into my hair. Like it was bizarre. Like people would like literally like ask to touch it. So I thought to myself, I'm gonna cut this before my identity is only my.
Other question was, are you guys aware of the salty memes for Hillsong College Teens account? Like, how does that mean
Love
anything to you guys? Are
I
you guys
love it.
like, do you guys know the people behind it, or like maybe got anything to riff on that a little bit?
Man, I love it. I'm like, he should. As sometimes people like get a little salty towards him, but I'm just like, man, let him go, man. Let him just run with it. He couldn't offend me.
You guys are like on the forefront when people talk about like modern versus vintage worship music. You guys are always, it's like you're synonymous with modern. And I've always been curious like what your influences are.
I mean, I think if you were to ask like all of our crew, like that answer would vary so much. Like for me, like I'm a big fan of like just like a lot of bands that are doing it like really like organic these days. And like, you know, still like Ryan Tedder is actually my songwriting hero. I love him. One day.
Do you watch the show Songland?
Yeah, man. I
You like
love
that?
it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
I
it.
like that show.
It's
I'm like,
cool.
finally, some songwriting. You know, like it's awesome. We were just talking to Cody Carnes 2 days ago, and I was asking him what his influences were, and I was not shocked, but I was surprised that he said Under Oath, Amberlin. He was naming the same kind of bands, and I'm like,
Mm.
immediately, I'm like, I get you. You know, like it makes sense. It all makes sense. Where do you see like the future, like the next 5 years of worship going?
Wow. That's a big question.
You're
It's
the holder of that.
yeah. Man, I don't know. Hey, like I think we're living in a pretty like crazy time. Like obviously even like what, 5 years ago, like you still basically wouldn't even hear worship music on the radio, right? You know what I mean? Like if anything, it was always like CCM's cover of a worship song like on the radio, but like, you know, like live songs like weren't making it on the radio. So like we're living in days where it's like, oh yeah, like worship music is like people are listening to it as well as just singing it in their churches. And yeah, I don't know, like it's because let's be honest, worship music in and of itself generally is like a genre of music. It's that like I don't know where like where it's heading. Man, for us, it's like we still write like songs that we like think and hope and witness like young people getting excited about. So like it's kind of and like we have like pass and fail definitely like, but we still try out songs at youth on a Friday night, and like we don't give up after one go because like nobody loses their mind when they don't know what's coming. You know what I'm saying? But we'll give a song a few cracks, and then like if they're not responding to it, like all right. But like Best Friends, for example, like that felt really left field. Like 'cause it kind of obviously with that like chorus like guitar line going at the start, you're just like, I don't know, like this is really cool for us, like, this is really cool for like what we grew up listening to, but I don't know if like youth are gonna love Best Friends. But first time we played it, they were just like screaming it. Like, I don't know if you've heard the live version, like, but
Yeah.
they naturally just like start, like, you know, our youth always does that, but there's like the, we want the truth, we want it, we want it. Like the second time they heard the song, they just like started doing that. And so I mean, where it goes, like sonically, like, I don't know, I would love it if it keeps going like more organic, still in the high energy feeling, but it'll always be songs for us that like, yeah, get people going.
Yeah, when I don't know if you know, I mean, you probably know, but that song got leaked on YouTube.
Oh, did
Or
it?
yeah, and I'm telling you, my phone blew up. Like, all my friends were texting me this. Like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you heard the new Young and Free? It sounds like Vintage United. It's awesome. Blah blah blah. Like, and I remember I sent it to Ryan, and he was like, the link is gone. Like somebody took it down. But there was this like brief. Like it was a day. I remember I was sitting in Chipotle and my phone was like I probably got 15 texts in a matter of like 30 minutes about it, and I was like, man, like that's pretty cool. That first off, it's completely different vibe, but also that people are virally sending a YouTube link to a leaked version. Because then we were talking about like that would be genius if somebody did that on purpose just to get kind of like people talking because like I said, it was such a departure from what people have in their head of what Young and Free sounds like. So they were like, "What's happening?" So
Yeah, I mean, what's so fun is like we definitely love, like, it's like obviously when you tour, like when you have one record, we had 12 songs like the first like 2 years of touring. So when people like wanted one more song at the end, like we just played Alive twice. We played Wake a couple times. Like now it's funny, like just like any other band, once you've got a few albums under your belt, it's kind of just like it's pretty cool. Even still watching it all fit together. We haven't really toured much. We were just on Winter Jam for a couple months, but even just putting Best Friends in that set, you're just like, man, it's cool. Like a church crowd to clap their hands, like they'll do it. They might not smile at you, but they'll do it, And it's fun. It's fun putting it all together.
do you have any special guests? Like I know you had Lecrae on one of your songs before. Do you have any special guests like that coming up on the next album?
But yeah, I don't know. Like we've talked about like a few songs and a few things, but obviously like because we did the album specifically live, like we're doing some studio versions, but that'll be a little later. And yeah, we'll just see. I don't know. Everybody's just right now. Everybody's figuring out like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What do we?
So the reason I was asking you is because people are spreading a rumor, or I don't know if it is a rumor, that Kanye is going to be on the next Young and Free album. And so I'm like trying to gauge your faith.
Man, if it's a rumor, I hope it's true.
Yeah. So you wouldn't be opposed to it, is what you're saying?
Man, I would not be opposed to it at all. Man, I think, I mean, I would love. I'd be so interested, truly, in watching the backlash that would come from it. But
Yeah.
man, I don't know if you've listened to his record, but man,
Yeah.
I like every friend I have, whether in church or out of church, when he put out Jesus is King, literally were just like, oh man, like, do you believe him? Like, oh man, like, what do you think? Like, Pastor Alex, like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, he literally wrote a song for us, like for you haters.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he put a song on the record knowing that we like Christians would be the first ones to be like, oh, it's fake, blah, blah. And like, man, like I just pray to God that like we as the global church can be on board when people are finding Jesus and wanting to point them to him. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It's awesome. So
Speaking
I
of
would love it.
speaking of Chick-fil-A, do you miss Chick-fil-A?
Honestly, man, I didn't grow up eating Chick-fil-A.
Oh
Like,
man.
but like Taco Bell and In-N-Out for me are just,
In and
I could
out.
eat.
See, that's the West Coast here.
Yeah, man. So like last year in my exile, I lived with some like family in LA for a couple months, and I put on easily 15 pounds. Just like every night, like driving home after writing, it was just like, well, Taco Bell's open. 11 years of being deprived of it, you can understand my
Yeah.
weakness.
Yeah, that was one thing when I was in Australia. I was a little disappointed at the fast food game there. it seemed like McDonald's was like the thing.
It's probably for the best, but
Yeah. But then the rest of the food was amazing. I mean,
True.
we were eating out all the time. Do you when we were there, we stayed in Bondi, and I was wondering, do you surf? Do you are you? I know a lot of the Hillsong guys surf. Are you a surfer or a skater?
Yeah, surfing is a early morning man's game, and I do not wake up early. This we're doing this call at my 8 a.m. and like when I woke up at 7:30, I was just like, the sacrifices we make for the kingdom. No, I'm joking. But no, like my friends who go surfing are up at like 5 a.m. like getting like first light, and I'm not about it. But I do love to skate.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if the hair was a surfer hair, skater hair, or musician hair.
It was definitely musician hair. I definitely like when I'm playing guitar, like with like short hair, like you still like want to bang your head and stuff, but it really has
Yeah,
a
doesn't
much
go anywhere.
it's a much lamer effect.
A lot of our listeners are into gear, like guitar gear, recording gear. Are you into all that?
I am medium into guitar gear.
Like
I
what?
love I love guitars.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
On tour, what is your what do you bring with you on tour, gear wise?
Um, well, I'll play like acoustic and electric on tour, and I travel. As of late, I've been touring. I got picked up one of the new Fender Mustangs, the American Performer ones. That to me, like a Mustang, like and really like a Telly is like because every time that we tour, like we're bringing all our gear from Australia to wherever. So we're spending like between like 14 of us, we're checking like 60 bags or something. And so like a Telly, a Mustang. I've toured like a Gretsch before. I had a have a White Panther, but with that's your only guitar, man. After a couple flights, and I am not a great setup artist. So after a couple flights, she's intonations off. Whereas my Telly, I throw it and I drop it, pick it up, it's still in tune, good to go. So
How about like amps and pedals? Are you using like real amps, Kemper, Fractal? What's the rest of your setup look like?
yeah, I mean, normally on tour, like pretty much consistently, like I'll just end up with an AC30, just with a Vox. That I found because we're not bringing our amps from overseas, obviously, so we're just hiring them from backline companies. And the AC30 to me has been the most consistent.
You bringing a pedal board too, or
Yep, got my pedal board set up by Goodwood. Thank goodness for the mates rate. Grant has actually been like one of my best friends since I moved to Australia. So like
oh,
yeah,
okay,
11 plus years. And yeah, so he's actually I used to play bass was my first instrument before. And like when they were just getting started, they were kind of just like, "Hey, want us to build you a board?" And I was like, yeah, for sure. So I was
yeah.
one of their first guinea pigs. I actually just switched back to using an M5 instead of the H9 just because uh, it's a little bit more user friendly. And but yeah, as far as like putting it all together, like thank God for Grant and Mikey for knowing how it should all go because I am not a wizard, but they are. Shout out Goodwood Audio. Great guys, nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Yeah, actually, Mikey's texting me right now. I'm scared to look at what he's sending me. So,
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We have some Zoom worship leader and guitar and gear hangs coming up. You can head on over to thechurchcollective.com and press that Zoom hangs button and join us for those events. They're going to be fantastic, and I would love to see you there. God bless you.